Everybody, welcome to the earliest alerts. Obviously, we still have a lot to talk about when it comes to the amount of warmth and the rainfall that we're going to be dealing with in the coming days. So we'll keep this on the earliest alert. In the short term, checking with the gauge there at Louisville International, we are at last check at 66.2 degrees and starting to climb. So here in just a few moments, we will now be at our warmest point of 2018 so far. Question is, are we going to see the record or not? And that's something we'll be monitoring as we head into later on for this afternoon. Right now, you can see we do have some of the clearing taking place across southern areas of Kentucky. At least some pokes of sunshine trying to work its way in. That's something we'll be tracking carefully this afternoon. That will help get our numbers up at the point of maybe even record levels as we head into later this afternoon. As far as temperatures go in the short term, though, I think we'll hold in the upper 60s. Areas of showers, most of them have been averaging out across areas of Indiana closer to the front itself. There is a chance we may see some of that activity work its way into Kentucky, but I really think a lot of our rain here for this afternoon is going to be focused across Indiana, and then we will see how many breaks we can develop here into Kentucky. Of course, that'll do two things. One, it'll allow the wind to really ramp up, and it'll allow for the temperatures to climb. And in some cases, mid to maybe even upper 70s possible in southern Kentucky. I don't see that here in Louisville, but then again, we don't really have that far to go. We're 66 now, 64 in Hardinsburg, 64 in Litchfield. And the cloud deck, and look at the cameras outside here in our network, and the cloud deck is starting to get different layers breaking up, so that only would enhance the potential to get some sunshine. At least try to poke through there. Now, when you look at the wider view, you see definitely some more moisture, although a lot of short-term models, they try to bring some of it in here. It's possible. We'll keep the chance in. I still think a lot of it, though, is going to be focused north, but a few showers are possible this afternoon. The main show is going to be taking place along the actual boundary itself, which is way up here. That'll be our show for tonight. So let's get right into that. Here we go, Futurecast, and this is the RPM. It takes us to around 70. It always runs a little off on some of the numbers, but you get the idea of the main rain chance being north. Then here comes the front. Now, this still looks to be convective in nature as far as having lightning with it. Some gusty winds. Notice even by midnight we're still 66, so we're going to stay warm most evening and windy. The wind should actually ramp up a couple hours before the front passes through here. I don't see this being severe weather, certainly by the angle it's coming in, but there will be potential for some gusty winds enhanced with that. We'll have to watch that, of course, and some lightning. Once it passes by, what happens here is you get the convective line, the heavier rain pushes in, and then you get a lot of rain that forms in the back side of the front, the post-frontal rainfall, and that is what is going to linger into Monday, into Friday morning. How long it lingers into Friday will determine when we can get rid of that rain chance, and also when we see the drop in temperature take place. It looks like it'll be out of here before we get to the point of getting it to snow, but it does look to be a cold rain in the morning period, and then we'll see it fade out as we head toward midday tomorrow. So overall, an improving forecast on the radar tomorrow, but temperatures will actually keep falling. As always, we'll track it, especially on totals. Right now, because of the convective nature, the thunderstorms will put down higher totals than the post-frontal rain can. So your higher totals will be the initial drop down, and as soon as it updates, you'll see the numbers coming in. But in general, I would say about an inch and a half is possible in some spots, and like Bedford coming in about 2 inches. Wouldn't rule it out, but it will determine really on how the post-frontal rain adds onto that initial line to see grand totals. But I don't think it's going to be enough to cause any flooding issues with this event tonight. So then Friday, cooler weather, as I talked about. Now let's get back to Saturday. This is where the models kind of vary a bit on whether or not we're going to have just a flat wave of moisture come this way, or even more flat across the Carolinas, or is this wave going to try to cut a little more to the north into eastern areas of Kentucky, and doing that would bring in the rain all the way into Indianapolis and further north, in fact. But the thing is, the quicker and sharper of an angle you have, the more it can try to mix with a little bit of snow at the initial part of it. Don't see that being a big enough concern to fit in the forecast, but that's something we'll still watch. You see the rain-snow line, that blue line, that's very close to us. But in general, a swath of rain will pass through. Now, in the colder air, this could be a decent little snow for the higher elevations to our east. They're excited about that. For us, it's going to be likely a cold rain. That's not fun for anybody. We'll fine-tune the chances, though. Right now, I think we got 60% in, and it's because I'm still seeing signs it'll be a flat wave, and we're splitting the difference for now. And if we see growing support one way or another, once we get some sampling, we'll let you know. All right, now, here's the thing on Sunday. Sunday continues to be dry daytime. Sunday night into Monday, another warm front moves in, so another round of rain will move in overnight, Sunday into Monday morning. But Sunday still looks dry, okay, in 50s. Then we enter a very warm period, and this is where we run into problems because we have multiple waves. They're going to be tracking along a boundary. It's going to be basically St. Louis to, say, Toledo. Multiple waves. Now, the thing is, are we going to see one wave after another train over the same spots, hence a big flooding issue? Or are we going to see them slightly displaced? One wave here, the next one a little more east, and then the third one a little more to the east of that, which is a natural progression of low pressures. You move in and pushes the trough down just slightly a little more south and east. That, I think, is likely, but I do think also that this high to the southeast is fairly strong. So I think the progression initially is going to be very small, and then I think it'll accelerate for the third one, if that makes sense. So that's going to play a role in our temperatures, because the slower it is, Monday will be the 60s, maybe some rain and thunder, but Tuesday may be a mostly dry day. Record is 76. If this is right and it holds off the second wave, we will go higher than that. This will be a really warm day potentially. It also will enhance some of the thunderstorm potential. So that's when we start to talk a little more about severe potential coming into play. Right now, there's not enough agreement to go there. Just know we're watching that. Now, if it is more progressive, the second one is, and it is more east, then no, it won't be record warmth, and the rain will dominate. It'll still be warm in the 60s. And then here comes the third one as we head into Wednesday. That one will dominate the radar. It even tries to get it cold enough to get some snow on the northern fringe of that. Don't get too excited about it. But notice that the trough itself, it kind of just tilts. It was like this, and then it kind of tilted like that. So it's not like it's coming full-on cold blast of air. It's not going to happen. It's going to roll off our backs, if you will, which means the next wave has a chance to come right back in and replace the others in the same location. So this is why we're looking at grand, rain totals over a long period of time. This is where we're running into problems for river flooding more than flash flooding. And then we'll see how things play out as we end the month and begin March. We'll cover that in a second. The Euro rainfall especially is coming in a little bit lighter on the totals. It's not as aggressive as it was. And I think it's because it's trying to spread out each one of these waves and the progression of it. And if it can do that, we will take all that rain that was showing, 7 to 9 inches. We'll take that and we'll spread it out a little bit over a basin. That does help in flash flooding, but it will still aggravate the rivers. That will still happen. We'll see, though, if they come back into line and try to focus and repeat themselves in a training fashion or not. That potential is there because that's why the river flood risk is still going to be elevated until we get that narrowed down, guys. All right, real quick. We've talked a lot about the polar vortex. A lot of you talk about the splitting of it that's coming our way with the stratospheric warming. I know Ryan had a great graphic on it. It is splitting. That is the case. That's that's happening now. When it splits, it doesn't always necessarily mean it's coming right at us. There's a lot of other factors in the upper air to determine where these little pieces of very cold air go. In this case, the NAO is going negative still, but the PNA is not agreeing with it. So this is what we call very much an East Coast-based NAO, which means it's more into the Atlantic. Yes, you're still getting the blocking in Greenland, but the actual troughiness, if you will, is just to our east. In this case, we could still stay fairly mild and warm, if you will, an active pattern for our area, not cold and wintry. In Europe, it actually would get one of the pieces, it looks like, would influence Europe. So they would actually get colder. So this is how at least March starts. But this pattern is looking like it's not going to hold that way for long. I think there will be another shift where this will disappear off the East Coast, and I think we do have a chance to get at least somewhat of a trough into the Great Lakes here. Now, keep in mind, any cold blasts from here on out are not going to be like January, but cold enough to keep wintry weather alive. The latest Japanese model updated for the spring season shows just that. It did really well so far for the winter, by the way, and it shows that we'll get back to a colder setup March and parts of April. Colder than normal, not cold like January 0, colder than normal, and normal at that point is in the 50s, so colder than normal could be upper 30s. Still, it's not great. And drier than normal in the southeast, a little bit of above normal in two portions of the Ozarks. One step at a time, guys. But right now we got our hands full with the warm weather and the rain that's happening here in the short term, so stay tuned.